What does Baldi's Basics Classic Remastered hide from the player behind the scenes? Baldi's Basics features a schoolhouse that is honestly crawling with all sorts of insanity. In this remastered version of Baldi's Basics, we're going to take a closer look at all its modes, which includes Classic Style, Party Style, and Demo Style. Oh, we'll also be visiting Null as well. As we break this boss fight we end up having with him. There's quite a bit to go over, so I hope you enjoyed this alternative look at Baldi's Basics Classic Remastered. As always, I usually hit you all with a very brief recap so everyone knows the sequence of events that take place throughout the game. With that said, we'll be starting off with the first of the three styles that are playable, being Classic Style. The player loads in as a student who enters a school known as Schoolhouse. Right at the start, we're greeted by Baldi, the head teacher of Schoolhouse. He'll give us math problems to solve on this device known as You Can ThinkPad, which in turn allows us to collect a notebook once completing the equations. However, most players will know at this point that Baldi ends up giving us equations that seemingly have no correct answer. And once we incorrectly answer it, he, well, becomes displeased with us. This then sets the tone as a chase between Baldi and the player begins. The player needs to collect 7 of these notebooks before they can leave the school, all while these other entities try to hinder their progress. Coming back to when we start this classic mode, we can zoom out and get a good overall look at Schoolhouse. It's a place that a lot of us can remember all the grueling hours and attempts of escaping these halls without being destroyed by Baldi, or lose our minds in the process. But as you can see, it's quiet at this point. It's only until we obtain the first 2 notebooks that the rest of the Schoolhouse gang spawns in. We'll see the principle of the thing starts off in here, where portraits and descriptions of the characters are on the walls. If the principal sees anyone breaking school rules, he'll make sure justice is served, as it apparently tastes good. As long as he doesn't see you running or being in any of the faculty rooms, you shouldn't have to worry about this guy. Otherwise, he'll track you down and take you directly to detention. Unglorious. First prize, who spawns over in this area, was, well, first prize at the science fair. It loves hugging people, as it will rush towards anyone it sees. This loving robot can be hit or miss while normally playing, overall being annoying, but occasionally a helping hand. Another member of the school that spawns over here is Playtime, who is always looking for a playmate. She can tie you up with a good old game of jump rope, which can single-handedly ruin a run, as she prevents you from moving. Having scissors will cut this interaction short. Oh yeah, it's a bully. He basically acts as a roadblock unless you give him money or candy. Then there's Gotta Sweep, who spawns in a closet. Being a large broom, he sweeps you and everything in his path. Arts and Crafters is up next, who is super shy, until you get all the notebooks, and he's suddenly out for blood. When aggressive, he'll shadow clone jutsu around your character and eventually teleport you. Obtaining all 7 notebooks as you attempt to exit from the school gets chaotic, like something out of a nightmare. And once you successfully escape, we're hit with a congratulations screen as it fades to black, taking us to the main menu. If we were to complete Classic Style while answering every equation incorrectly, we'll get the secret ending for this mode. The screen that pops up this time informs us that we've won, but there's room for improvement, as we're instructed to go see Baldi in his office for tips. Once the player realizes they are still in the game, it follows with them going down this hall and into Baldi's office, where we can find a large, glitched out Baldi and our best friend Null. In summary, he's a T-posing, photorealistic set of clothes, hair, eyebrows, and eyes that breaks the fourth wall. It is self-aware of its corruption, but the results are classified. He'll spout off a mouthful before crashing the game. However, freezing time, we can delay this crash and take a look at the entirety of this small secret ending section as it floats in the void. The size of this Baldi was upsetting me, so I decided to take him down a peg, bringing him back to a somewhat normal size. Much better. While messing around in here, I realized there was another Baldi present in this sequence, and he was currently inactive. This Baldi normally will only greet the player in this office once a particular challenge is complete, which we are not at yet. So I guess we'll just leave these guys and continue on, as we'll be back here later in the video. Moving on to the next mode, we'll start up Party Style, where all the items are wrapped up and shuffled around. Party Style is nearly identical to Classic Style when it comes to gameplay, minus the items being randomized. However, we can see there are of course a lot of balloons floating around, and most of the characters are wearing birthday hats. Not to mention this giant birthday cake that's inside the cafeteria. There is a room that wasn't in the Classic Style, which is this small wood-paneled hall with what appears to be a ladder leading down somewhere. To my understanding, this is a place the player will normally encounter when playing Demo Style, meaning we'll get back to this basement ladder in a little bit. So when we acquire all 7 notebooks, in a similar fashion, the player needs to reach all 4 exits. However, they need to save the cafeteria exit for last. Doing so will result with some cheerful music playing, confetti, and all the characters creepily standing behind us. Normally we'll take this lift that brings us to the level of this huge candle, which we must blow out. Before doing that, I want to go check out the rest of the school, as we're normally not able to. So after clipping through these fellas, I headed straight for the principal's office. Most players will know that Null is down here, but I quickly realized he actually wasn't there. This is because he'll only load in once the player blows out the large candle, as you can see here. Once doing that, the only way to come back down here is by using the teleporter. Unsurprisingly, interacting with Null here results in another distorted rant, and the game ultimately crashing. However, there's a whole second floor to explore here, so let's pretend we didn't just get owned by Null and head back. Once blowing the candles out, Baldi and his friends begin floating within the cafeteria. It's definitely strange, but only gets stranger as we traverse the second floor of the schoolhouse. Amongst all these rooms up here, there are a bunch of Baldis skating around known as Baldloons. This makes sense, seeing as they basically function like the balloons we saw on the first floor of the school. Amongst other rooms, we can find a bunch of playtimes hanging out with some Baldloons, along with a place face. It was this room in particular, though, that I found to be the most interesting. We can find Baldi cowering in the corner of this isolated and colorful area of the second floor. Although this room looked familiar to me, I realized it's quite similar to what we see when we go off camera while in the main menu of the game. When returning to the main menu, based on the level we leave, we're able to see what looks to be a map view of the mode we just exited. We'll see letters in the skybox all around us, for east, west, north, south, ceiling, and floor. Back in the map, we can also find an Easter egg in regards to the test, from Baldi's Basics Plus. It's the test, only it's just his head floating in this hallway. It isn't until we get to this Baldloon counter room that we end up encountering a crazy sequence. If the player has been keeping track of the Baldloons and inputs the correct amount for each counter, a secret room of chairs becomes accessible. Viewing this from behind the scenes is about to become irrelevant for the remainder of this sequence because entering this room initiates, well, our inevitable demise. The glitch red Baldloons will start spawning in and slowly move towards the player, as they delete the school when coming in contact with it. This allows us to venture out of bounds of the school with ease, so I headed over to crying Baldi in hopes that I can interact with him. Of course, we cannot console the sad Baldi, but I quickly realize nowhere is safe as the red Baldloons come barging in. Things intensify as the school glitches out, while a swarm of Baldloons circle us. It's like I had just disturbed a nest of hornets and they want blood. This madness does go on for quite a while, if I'm gonna be honest, but eventually it does end, and we get a congratulations screen, only to follow with a meltdown, as a bunch of flames begin to appear, along with text saying, "This is your fault." I guess Baldi's having a meltdown? Clearly, he's not okay. This brings us to the next mode called Demo Style. In this mode, we're still tasked with doing math, but this time we have to take the correct balloon number and put it into this math machine, which will reward us with the notebook. We have some new foes that we'll encounter in this mode as well, one of them being Cloudy Captor. It floats around the school and blows strong winds down hallways, slowing the player's progress. Speaking of slowing us down, there's this guy as well, known as Beans. He's a weird-looking kid who wants to impress others with his bubble gum bubbles. Getting hit by one of these bubbles will also slow the player down significantly, as it covers whatever entity it hits with gum. You can see how the gum will appear at the feet of whomever it makes contact with too. However, we can't forget Chockles. It's a chalk-drawn character that you can find on a chalkboard. He'll become fully formed and pop off the chalkboard as it begins circling the room while laughing. During this, the door to the room will lock, and Baldi is notified of this location. So probably best we just avoid him altogether. Taking a look at the school from above in demo style will reveal, a really strange room. A room filled with nightmare fuel, if I'm gonna be honest. I couldn't tell you its purpose, but if you know the story behind this room, please share in the comments below. However, there is a way to see this room normally, but we'll get to that in a minute. There's also another room that's hiding a Baldi wannabe known as Bladder. He can be found within this room, where we can see a couple of chalkboards that read, Bladder's Simples in Education School, Scary Grandma Game, and Don't End Up Like Me, if you make bootleg Baldi games, you'll be trapped in the walls of Here School forever. What a miserable life Bladder must live. Demo style also has environmental effects, such as the fog machine distorting our view, and water rising from the floor. As you can see, the water engulfs the entirety of the map when it's active. If we complete this mode normally, we'll get the ending that advertises Baldi's Basics Plus. However, once collecting all 7 notebooks, if the player heads back to each math machine and does the bonus questions, they'll be gifted the portal poster. Yes, this is exactly what we can use to access both rooms we just went over. Nothing occurred when I made entry to both of these rooms, unfortunately, but it was pretty cool to check these out. This leads us to the secret ending though. If you recall, we saw this basement ladder in party style as well. But even if you manage to somehow get to it in this mode, you learn that you can't interact with it anyways, making it inaccessible. Down in the basement though, we can find some comic strips on the walls, along with this room full of books. The notebooks in here are in order, with all grades including preschool to 12th grade. All of them are equally strange, and riddled with spelling errors though. We'll also see that this entire map is mostly covered by water. However, the only water we see normally is in this tunnel here, as we progress through the basement. There's a room that follows that has 5 levers in it, with one pulled down already. Pulling this one up will turn the lights on in another portion of the map that wasn't visible before, as you can see. I'm not entirely sure what these other levers do, as I didn't see any significant changes on the map while I pulled the levers. Coming over to this area, where we turn the lights on, we can find an empty classroom, and this other room that has some type of machine in it. As you enter the room, Noel will surprise us from behind, doing what he does best. Yes, crashing the game. Coming back here, I found in the files that Baldi's here as well, just currently inactive. He can be found in this machine, and some of you are probably aware of this already. The reason we're not getting to see this Baldi in this area initially is the same reason we can't see the other Baldis in the rest of the secret endings. It's Null. We need to defeat Null. Doing this requires the player to complete any of the first 3 style modes with all the fun settings on, minus free run. So we'll turn these on and get through this as quickly and painlessly as possible. We can clearly see the lights out feature blacks out the map, not allowing us to see much of the school, but we are granted this little light that's fixed to our player. Minus the map being flipped and the hard mode features, nothing significant is happening outside of normal gameplay. Once this feat is completed, you'll notice back at the style selection screen that we can click on Baldi, as it reads Null Style, which takes us into this wild boss fight. So the Null fight takes place on the main floor of the school. The obvious difference here is Null's presence, as he lurks the school halls in a similar fashion to Baldi. You can tell if he's close by because the lights will flicker in his immediate area. Null has crashed the game far too many times for us to play fair here, so let's get started. Like the rest of the styles, we have to grab the first 2 notebooks before beginning. There's no math required, seeing that Null has taken over the You Can Think pad. I gave Null a math problem of his own, causing him to stand idle and really think about the math. So I went ahead and grabbed all 7 notebooks. Coming back to Null, I wake him up with a B soda, as it pushes him just enough to activate him into the next phase. Normally at this point, Null's going to express some disapproval with our presence, and we're going to have to start throwing objects at him, as a fast, intense chase will follow. Oh, if he catches us, you can see that everything starts glitching out and it ends up crashing the game, making for a difficult process to get back to this point. So instead, we're going to upset Null by making it so he has no chance of getting us, allowing us to take a closer look at this map as the chaos ensues. Glorious! The map is pretty crazy to look at once the chase begins, as the school pulsates in sync with the music. Despite Null's efforts, you can see that he sticks to us like glue, but I think we're safe. In this state, hitting him with an object was literally hit or miss, as he is really fast, jumping all over my immediate area. Just look at him go! You can see the school is pulsating faster as we continue to damage him. I ended up getting lucky and got him stuck in a wall where I could just freely do damage. Once he's finally defeated, we immediately spawn into this void with a blue door in front of us. There's not much to this area, as it's just one office room with an empty supply closet. Normally the player will come in here to interact with this book, which is actually a message from the developer. In summary, he discusses the future of the game, its lore, how Baldi's Basics Plus is going to be something he put a lot of thought into, and that he hopes we enjoy it. Finishing the book, Null will appear in the room, and he's clearly not happy, as he goes on quite a rant. Eventually he goes bonkers, as he glitches out all over the place, before ultimately disappearing. As I was browsing the contents of this scene, I found a game object labeled Classic Finale Manager, linked to Thanks Man. Turning this on reveals a secret code on the wall of the closet, and the creator of the game, who is putting up an energizing high five for us. Some of you may know the reasoning for all of this, but this is all technically here for another ending. If we go back to where we access Null Style, we'll see that it is now Glitch Style. Going into this Glitch Style, we'll experience that the entirety of this challenge is identical to Null Style, aside from Null being replaced by this terrifying red ball balloon. Once the player goes through this very difficult process again and beats the glitch, we end up right back at the same ending. However, this time, when we read through the book and exit out, it's not Null waiting for us. It's the Thanks Man, as he casually says the following.
Thanks for playing my game.
Now, all the extra Baldis we encountered in the secret endings throughout this video make sense, because now that Null is defeated, we can go back and do these secret endings again, but with different results. In the classic style ending, we can see Baldi is there now along with this code. Approaching Baldi, he will proceed to tell us how to do subtraction, as the game ends shortly after. Entering this code into the You Can Think pad unlocks an authentic mode, which is pretty cool. It gives more of a 90s feel, with the movement feeling pretty rough though. If we go to where Null is during the end of Party Style, we once again find Baldi in his place by the recorder, with another code on the ceiling. This time around, Baldi will sing us Baldi's Fun Time song.
Here it goes. Enjoy!
He'll then thank us for listening and say bye as the game ends. The code in this room will teleport the player to a music room, where we can basically listen to all the music that's in the game. Nothing interesting is out of bounds in this area, but I digress. Of course, there is a code at the end of Demo Style 2 which unlocks Chaos Mode. To my understanding, a clone of each character will generate in-game once the player obtains a notebook. This makes for some wild gameplay that I can't imagine actually attempting. As you can see though, it is in fact chaotic. They are all over the place. This got me thinking, and I did some of my own duplicating, which resulted with this mess. A truly foolhardy mode. With that though, this concludes our Broken Adventure in Baldi's Basics Classic Remastered. It's been a while since I originally played this, so I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you in the next video real soon. Cheers!